When society collapses, where do you imagine yourself? When social order starts to crumble, what side of the line will you be on? In 2008's Blindness, we get to watch as a whole city falls into darkness. Here's the spoiler alert. While this is just my opinion, I recommend you watch this film for yourself. Link to the film is in the description. As the hustle and bustle of the town flows without missing a beat, one car disrupts the flow by sitting still at a red light that has turned green. As the driver sits there, bystanders walk over to check if he's okay.
I'm blind.
That's one hell of a predicament. To suddenly go blind, I'd say he's handling it quite calmly. As waiting traffic doesn't wait too patiently, one of the bystanders agrees to drive the man back to his house for him. Pretty self-explanatory what's happening so far. People are going blind randomly for no reason at all, or so we're supposed to think for now. As the man comes to a stop, the blind man believes that he has reached his house. Well, if that isn't some of the grimiest behavior, he couldn't even drop him off at the sidewalk. Hopefully this guy really actually isn't too far away from where he told the guy to take him. As the man begins to spin around while calling for help, cars continue to whiz by him while beeping for him to get out of the way. Just as he starts to lose his composure, why was this worry necessary to add? He just gave this blind guy an aneurysm just to park the car. He could have just told him what he was doing. Nice of him to come back though. As the man takes the blind man into his apartment, he starts walking around as though he's about to make himself at home. The blind man quickly tries to get him out and he shuts the door behind him. "You're blind, why are you even trying to look through?" As the blind man's wife gets home, she notices a mess and her blind husband is lying down. After he explains what's going on, she begins to panic and she rushes him to the eye specialist. She would have taken her husband's car, but it turns out that the man that dropped him off made off with the car. After the doctor runs tests, he concludes that this is like nothing he's ever seen before, so he refers him to the hospital. Later on in the evening, we come across the man that stole the car, and as he runs from police, he is suddenly struck with blindness. Okay, I take back what I said before. This is the worst time to go blind. The next morning, the doctor's wife greets her husband only to find out some startling information. Julianne Moore, who's known for her signature red hair, actually dyed it blonde for this role. Since it was so abnormal to see her like this, she got a lot of unnecessary attention for it, which made her uncomfortable.
I can't see.
Now it's getting intriguing. Is the blindness contagious? It's almost like it's passed on through a selective process. As people continue to go blind all throughout the city, the eye doctor contacts a colleague at the hospital. He reaches out to the Ministry of Health, who decides to quarantine the eye doctor and round up anyone he'd been in contact with. As they take the eye doctor, his wife forces herself in the ambulance with him.
Because I've just gone blind. I've just gone blind.
This woman is tenacious. At least she knows her way around a loophole to support her husband. Once they arrive at the quarantine facility, they are accompanied by other people who are ailing from the same blindness. As a precaution, the eye doctor and his wife decided it would be smarter to have everyone else think she's blind as well. Fun fact, there are no named characters throughout the movie. Each person is simply named by a descriptive word or what they do. As newcomers arrive, we see some pretty familiar faces. Once the blind guy and the thief find out they're in the same room together, things don't stay as smooth as everyone would have hoped. As the next day begins, new quarantine people are brought into the ward, including the first blind guy's wife. As the guards begin to leave, the eye doctor and his wife try to ask for antibiotics for the thief who injured his leg the day before.
Get the fuck back!
This isn't a peaceful safety precaution anymore. This took a turn for the worse, and I feel like the eye doctor is the last person you'd really want to dissuade from helping others. As the eye doctor's wife watches the blind help the blind, literally, she starts to feel more sorry for them, and she tries to reach out to someone on the emergency line that their predicament needs some assistance. As the numbers proceed to grow, the eye doctor's wife takes it upon herself to help everyone. I have a feeling that this is gonna wear on her, and once a certain someone finds out, this won't end well. I've got a feeling that the thief won't be too happy. As conditions deteriorate even further, morale follows suit until the eye doctor's wife discovers the man with an eye patch. He happened to bring his radio when he got brought in, so the other residents asked to hear some music. The speaker we hear coming over his radio is actually speaking Portuguese, which is actually the language the original novel was written in. After he gets brought in, everyone asks for updates he may have heard. He tells them that everyone outside of the quarantine facility has shut down and almost everyone is blind now. Later that night, guards come in to take people out of the facility. They herd the blind like cattle to the slaughter.
Excuse me, sir? Someone?
We all saw this coming, but somehow I didn't expect it to hit like it did. Watching helpless people mow each other over not because they're being cruel, they legitimately just can't help it. The next day, the guards throw a shovel over the fence for the eye doctor's wife to collect. As they give her directions to where it is, she plays along as if she's blind. Once she realizes they're screwing with her, she collects the shovel on her own and gives them a piece of her mind.
Whoa, did you see that?
She's my favorite character for sure. She's just about had it at this point, and after seeing the conditions in which she's living in just to help people, who can blame her? Soon after, the eye doctor goes to Ward 3 to try and negotiate some changes that need to be made. But when he makes his suggestions, he's not welcomed like he had hoped by the bartender there.
I declare myself the king of Ward 3.
Well, this can't be good. Anarchy in Ward 3. Later on, the doctor's wife goes to check on the thief who is feverish from his infected wound. Called it. I knew he would catch her. And he's not going to be a problem anymore. I love how it presented a huge problem only to solve it by itself within seconds. Now that we've gotten rid of one problem, another is shown up. The bartender appears over the PA system where he states that anyone who wants to eat has to pay from now on. As the members of Ward 1 put together their valuables, the bartender decides that it's only worth enough for half of the people there. After the eye doctor blames himself for not standing up to the bartender more, he is comforted by the call girl who tries to reassure him. Well, this took a turn. Also, I feel like risking losing the one person they can see as an ally isn't the smartest of decisions in a world full of blind people. Oh damn, how is she so calm? She could easily make life even more of a living hell, but she's probably too smart for that. Once the valuables run out, Ward 3 decide they want the other wards to bring them their women in exchange for food. After much deliberation, Ward 1 gathers 9 volunteer women to go for the sake of the group. After a very rowdy night, the worst of the deal is over. This film is way more serious and dark compared to what I'd originally expected. They can't take much more of this though, can they? The next day, the women from Ward 2 are brought to the men of Ward 3. While they are preoccupied, the eye doctor's wife sneaks in and around all of the blind men until she gets to the bartender. Yes, this movie gives us some fulfilling vengeance moments for sure. This is just one of those moments that you love to see play out exactly how you had hoped.
One of your men will die!
I love how she had to throw in that last bit. It's literally just rubbing it into a blind guy. She's just had enough. As Ward 1 prepares for a retaliation, they gather volunteers for people who are tired of dealing with Ward 3. Once the volunteers gather, they try to count their numbers.
I can see 12 of us.
This is how you know things are about to go down. I'm weirdly excited. As they talk about a plan, one of the women sneaks over to Ward 3 where she sets it on fire. As they all burn, Ward 1 makes a break for outside where the doctor's wife leads a group of people around town. As they walk around town, they can see how far the devastation has spread. All of society has crumbled and blind people roam the streets. Eventually, the doctor and his wife set out to find supplies. Once they find an old supermarket, she goes in and leaves him at the door. I feel like the fall of society happened at a record pace, even for films. Even though it was a terrible experience, it seems to have helped strengthen the bond between the doctor and his wife. As the eye doctor leaves her so he can collect clothes, she runs into another new friend. Leave it to man's best friend to always find a place with humans, even in a not-so-distant future where mankind has failed everyone. The doctor's wife finds a local church to take shelter in, and she sees that people really haven't changed deep down. Once the doctor returns with the clothes he found before, the 3 of them depart to make their way back to the rest of the group.
How lucky we are that we have a leader with vision.
And of course, she simply decides that they should go home to their house. When in doubt, always choose home. Once they make their way back to the doctor's house, they all make themselves at home, and they feel more like a family than we've ever seen any of them be. As they continue to help each other, it reminds us that not all humanity is lost throughout everything they've been through. Later that night, the man with the eye patch and the call girl sit and discuss their future together.
Is anyone listening?
As touching as this moment is, I still stand by the fact that they are all terrible for using this man's blindness like that. Don't lie to the man, make yourself known. As the night continues, relationships that have been put through the ringer are seen being mended by the peace of being free. A feast is enjoyed where everyone is thankful for having each other, then we cut to... Are you sure about that? The next morning, everyone begins to gather for their morning coffee and figure out what's next. You mean to tell me all he needed was the scent of fresh coffee to let him see again? I doubt that that's all it was, but his sight comes back as suddenly as it was gone. They never explain what takes everyone's sight away to begin with, or exactly what brings it back, but all in all, it was a very intriguing and raw film. The way they showed the progression of how humanity is thrown to the wayside in the midst of chaos is fantastic. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments below, and go ahead and comment what I should watch next. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this one. I'll see you in the next one.